Mark. Glad you made it. I was feeling lonely on this side.
No kidding. I guess I am too.
Yeah.
Might not have had a meeting.
Gotta hold the fort down over here. I don't know. That's a good question.
Well, we were all three talking about you earlier. Yeah.
I believe that actually.
I gave you the benefit of the doubt, though, and
Thank
showed
you.
up.
Thank you. At least one. I got one. But I guess I didn't ask you either, so.
A little bit. Well, no, I've just been doing demolition, swinging sledges, and just work. Yeah. Well, we're moving, and I'm working on our new house, and for once, somebody came right away, a sub, and so I wasn't ready. But you know, his next open time is the beginning of next year, and you know, we want to move in this month, so I've kind of been in a few extra hours trying to get ready for him.
All right, everyone, welcome to the North Platte City Council meeting here on Tuesday, October 1st, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. And of course, we are here in the council chambers, calling the meeting to order. Does not look like we have a member of the clergy, so Mr. Garrick, would you grace us with a prayer, please?
Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for the company I find myself in today, for the desire to seek your will in guiding this city. Be with us and guide our thoughts and decisions while we work to make your will be done. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Angie, would you roll call, please?
Nisley,
Here.
Tryon,
Here.
Bulls, Lucas,
Here.
Garrett,
Here.
Flanders, Baker,
Here.
Here.
Thank you. A current copy of the Open Meetings Act of the State of Nebraska is posted on the wall at the back of the council chambers. Meeting procedure: the public may address specific agenda items at the pleasure of the mayor. If recognized by the mayor, please identify yourself by stating your name and address. Please address the council through the mayor and limit your remarks. We respect our city employees and request that any complaints or criticisms of employees not be aired in a public meeting. Concerns about employees should be brought to the attention of the city administrator or the mayor. Individuals in violation will be declared out of order. Consent agenda. All matters under the consent agenda are considered by the council to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. Any city council member may, however, remove an item from consent by request. 1A, approve the minutes of September 17th and 24th, 2024. B, approve the application by Fraternal Order of Eagles number 2839 for a special designated license on October 12, 2024 from 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. at the Dean Event Center, 501 East Walker Road for the Pheasants Forever fundraiser. C, approve the collective bargaining agreement between the City of North Platte and IBEW Local Number 1597 ML&W for the term of October 1, 2024 to September 30, 2027.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented. Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Nisley. Calling the question on the consent agenda, please. Consent agenda is passed. Thank you, everyone. Item number two, moving on to the regular agenda. Approve the resolution granting continued authority to the Airport Authority of the City of North Platte, Nebraska for an additional 3.5 cent levy.
I move to approve the resolution granting continued authority to the Airport Authority of the City of North Platte, Nebraska for the additional 3.5 cent levy.
Second.
Motion by Garrick, second by Lucas. Any discussion on this item? Mr.
Mr.
Reeker?
Mayor, where does that bring us then when you add that into the city's request or levy? Where does that put us in relationship to our last year's request?
This doesn't change what the airport asked back in August for the levy, but it puts us about 1.5 cents less than we were last year combined levy between the two.
Between the city and the airport?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Other questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Lucas?
So is this action something that we do, like, for example, on an annual basis, or does this tie directly into the project that we discussed the project, I think, prior, where it's got a huge percentage of federal funding and a smaller percentage of local funding? So how does this fit into all that?
This action or this resolution is tied specifically to the bonding process for the airport for the project of the new terminal. That's it. And really what we're doing is just affirming that the airport authority has the authority to do this. That's really all we're doing. We're not changing anything. We're not adding anything. We're
Right.
just affirming that they have the authority.
Yeah, so in other words, we've been through the process and we've got their projected no levy ask. Basically, this is what, and I think they've gone out, gotten bids for their construction. They're ready to go. This is kind of the reaffirmation that they have that bonding authority then, right? Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
And if it's my understanding, their actual ask is about 2.9 cents, not the full 3.5, but that's what is allowed by law, and so that just puts it in the bonding
Okay.
paperwork.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Ed? You're looking
You
at me
saw
like you
my
have a question.
puzzled
So, yeah.
That's not uncommon. So why are we asking for more than we need? I guess I don't understand, Lane.
That is just what's how the law states it, and so when you're going for a bond, it just gives that the maximum allowed by law, but they will only ask for what they actually need. That's just for bonding paperwork and things when you're going out for a bond. It's my understanding of it. We have counsel here that maybe could go into a little more detail.
I am curious, I guess, why we're asking for a bigger bond than what we're expecting to spend.
We're not asking, we're affirming. We're affirming the capability. So go ahead.
Hi, Mayor Kelleher, member of council. I'm Austin Partridge with Northland, assisting the airport with the bonding process for the new terminal. So good question. So state statute allows them the authority to go up to that 3.5 cents. As Lane pointed out, their tax asking for the bond is only that 2.9 cents. So they although they have the authority to go up to the 3.5 cents to repay their bonds, they will only need to levy that 2.9 cents, which has already been approved by City Council. So just affirming that the 3.5 cent authority, they're not using the full 3.5 cents that they're given.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions while Austin's standing there? Okay, Austin, run for it.
Mr. Mayor, just one
Oh,
question.
sorry. Wait a minute. You might have to come back.
Yeah,
Mr. Lucas,
no, I
go
think
ahead.
I think
Okay.
this is for you guys.
Okay.
I just want to make sure I know how we're voting here. Is this an item that would require 5 votes or just the majority of the quorum, or how does this work here tonight?
So as a resolution, it would require a majority of the elected members of the city council, which would mean a 5-person vote.
Okay. And if it's voted down, what happens then? Is that complicated?
That may take some additional research, so.
Okay. Okay.
I reserve the ability to respond at a later time.
Yeah. I don't mean any disrespect for the members that are here tonight, but I just wonder if this shouldn't be with a full council. But anyway, I think I'd like to motion to table this for one meeting. Where we
Second.
could potentially have a full council.
Okay. Taking notes. Motion to table,
Second.
second by Lucas, second by Garrick. Calling the question on tabling the motion.
Oops.
Gotta click.
So this is not a full resolution. This is just a motion to table. So
Right.
it does not require the 5 votes. The 4-2 vote would be a majority in favor of tabling. So this would pass.
Okay. Item is tabled. Okay, moving on. Item number 3. Authorize and approve a bid for recycling services to be awarded to WRG to receive the City of North Platte recyclables and authorize the mayor to sign all documents for the city.
Mr. Mayor, I move to authorize and approve the bid for recycling services to be awarded to blank to receive City of North Platte recyclables and authorize the mayor to sign all documents for the city.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Garrick. Lane, you want to describe what's going on here just a little bit?
So we've had a contract for a number of years. It was basically ongoing until one party or the other would cancel that contract for recycling services. In August, we received notice from the current recycler that they were not going to take our recyclables after September 30th. We put a request out for proposals. I'm asking for a cost that was in your packet for each of the different materials that we currently take. Current recycler decided not to bid, and so we had a bid from WRG. We think it's going to save us some money, but still take care of all our recyclables. We have some plans in place with the city, whereas the cardboard, most oftentimes we will compost the cardboard into our tree waste and actually make it more mulch and uses for farming and gardening purposes with that. And then with the metals, the tin and aluminum, we will take care of those ourselves within the city and work with local recyclables on the metal portion. And so basically, the items we'll be hauling to Ogallala WRG will be our plastics and our paper, and so it'll be less loads to go back and forth. As you know, we already take all of our garbage at the transfer station to just south of Ogallala. So it's we already have people going that direction. So we believe that we can adequately handle all the recycling materials, hopefully maybe expand the program in the future, and also continue with what we're doing now at a lesser cost to the city than what we had been paying in the past.
Mr. Mayor, since we're composting the cardboard, is there any reason we aren't composting the paper?
Mainly because of that blows around a lot worse out there, and since it's in the open, it'd be a lot more of a mess.
Well, it'd be really composted.
The cardboard can
For
go through
several
our
miles around us.
the cardboard's able to go through our processes
Okay.
and be mixed in with the wood and not have the problems that paper would have.
Okay,
So.
all right.
Other questions or comments? Thank you, Lane.
No, I just asked a question. We made the motion, we just left it blank. Is where we now going to put in there WRG? Is that the way the motion should read?
That's how it should read, correct?
Brad, did you make the motion?
I seconded.
Did you say WRG?
I said blank.
Oh,
I don't know, that must not be the right company.
I was concentrating on writing your initials here and not listening to you.
I can amend my,
Thanks, Jim. Good thing you got that.
I can amend my motion to reflect WRG. I think that's what it is.
That's
WRG.
correct, yes. Yeah.
I'll second his amendment.
Okay. I guess technically we have to vote on that. So all in favor of the amendment to add WRG into what was previously blank? Calling the question. Mr. Woods? Okay, WRG is now part of the the original amendment, or excuse me, the original motion. Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Lucas.
Lane, could you give us a quick description of financial impacts, how it compares to budget and everything?
So in the past number of years, it's cost us about $8,500 a month for our recycling contract for that. We estimate, even with the manpower to haul and everything else, that this should be considerably less than that. It's going to be a little hard to tell until we get some tonnages because before all of our stuff was just bound together in tonnages, and so with the metals being taken out in the cardboard, we're not exactly sure how many tonnages we're going to have as plastic and paper that we'd be paying for, but we estimate it's going to be less. We're going to track it for an entire year to see exactly what those costs are, and if for some reason we're wrong, then we will reevaluate which way to go on the recyclables. But we think it could cut it almost in half.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Donna.
So where does the tin and aluminum, did you say where that goes?
There's some couple different local options that we have for that.
Oh, okay.
We're still working out a little bit of those details, but we know that we have a couple different options to take those items.
Locally, so, okay.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 3 as amended, please. Item number 3 is passed. Item number 4, adopt the resolution amending the user fee resolution for fiscal year 2024-2025 for the Public Transit Department to increase the billing fee from $1.50 to $2.
Move to adopt the resolution amending the user fee resolution for fiscal year 2024-2025 for the North Platte Public Transit Department to increase the billing fee from $1.50 to $2.
Second.
Motion by Garrick, second by Lucas. Any discussion on item number 4? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 4, please. Item number 4 is passed. Item number 5, adopt the resolution to approve placing stop signs at the intersections of Business Park Drive southbound at State Farm Road, William Avenue eastbound and westbound at Ash Street, Adams Avenue northbound and southbound at West 3rd Street, Washington Avenue northbound and southbound at West 3rd Street, and Lincoln Avenue northbound and southbound at West 3rd Street.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt the resolution to approve placing stop signs at the intersections of Business Park Drive southbound at State Farm Road, William Avenue eastbound and westbound at Ash Street, Adams Avenue northbound and southbound at West 3rd Street, Washington Avenue northbound and southbound at West 3rd Street, and Lincoln Avenue northbound and southbound at West 3rd Street.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Lucas. Any discussion on the placement of stop signs? We have the expert sitting over there just waiting to jump up and talk if we need to ask him any questions. So. Seeing none, calling the question on item number 5, please. Item number 5 is passed. Now we begin a series of public hearings. Okay. Number 6, which is to adopt the recommendation by the North Platte Planning Commission to allow 3 60-foot aviation towers located at 5400 East Lee Drive. No, excuse me, Lee Bird Drive. We're opening the public hearing. And to receive any comment on this item, these are towers that would be at the airport, which are currently on a building, would be moving to a different building. The airport guys are all nodding their head over there, so I've said that correctly. Anyone wish to comment on it? Please approach the mic and tell us who you are, where you live, and make your comment. Mr. Garrick.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Garrick, second by Reeker to close the public hearing. Calling question on closing the public hearing, please. Public hearing is now closed. Council will now consider adopting the recommendation by the North Platte Planning Commission to allow 3 60-foot aviation towers located at 5400 East Lee Bird Drive.
I move that we find the request for a conditional use permit to allow 3 60-foot aviation communication towers located at 5400 East Lee Bird Drive meets the minimum standards stated in the North Platte Code of Ordinances, Section 156.322, and approve and grant conditional use permit requested with the condition that all elements of the application are complied with. The use shall conform to all applicable ordinances, laws, and regulations of any governmental jurisdiction. The use shall have adequate water, sewer, and drainage facilities. Ingress and egress shall be so designated as to minimize traffic congestions in the public streets. The use shall, in all other respects, conform to the applicable regulations of the district in which it is located. The use shall be in harmony with the character of the area and the most appropriate use of the land.
Second.
Motion by Garrick, second by Reeker. Any discussion on item number 6? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 6, please. Item number 6 is passed. Item number 7, another public hearing, to consider or to receive comment on adopting the resolution authorizing the mayor or designee to submit the City of North Platte PRO housing application and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents between the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and the City of North Platte. Opening the public hearing officially. Anyone would like to make a comment? Please approach the microphone and tell us your comment.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Garrick. Close the public hearing. Calling the question and closing the public hearing, please. Public hearing is closed. Council will now consider whether to adopt the resolution authorizing the mayor or designee to submit the City of North Platte Pro Housing application and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents between the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and the City of North Platte.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt the resolution authorizing the mayor or designee to submit the City of North Platte PRO housing application and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents between the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and the City of North Platte.
Second.
Motion by Lucas, second by Garrick. Kevin, you want to tell us a little bit about this grant, please?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The proposal in front of you this evening is the second year of a grant application that is available. Council last October approved the mayor to submit an application. We were not successful. We were one of 175 applicants that applied last year. There was approximately, I believe, 21 awards. At that time, it was a one-year program. Congress back in March appropriated $100 million to this program and authorized it for another year. The terms of the program are very similar to last year. They did reduce the overall award amount down to $7 million. Last year, you guys approved authorizing up to $4.5 million. We left it with that based on some of the applicants that previously applied and were awarded. We took that feedback into consideration, made some significant changes to our application. It is very, very similar. If you did read it, it is very similar to the rural application that we applied for at the state level, which we should hopefully find out the results of that later this month. One of the concerns I know at that meeting was the length of the program. If we were awarded this funding, we would have a 6-year term. Overall, we have approximately 47 properties already on the property resolution list, which would be good examples that we could use to get some dilapidated houses off the and back onto the city tax rolls. But overall, it is to clean up. The money would be used to get housing, affordable housing, and clean up some of the dilapidated properties that we have throughout the city.
Thank you. Questions or comments on item number 7? Ed?
Mr. Mayor, so I presume that if we're successful in getting this grant, then most of this work is going to be legal, I presume, and then maybe getting some liens removed, and probably the smaller cost is going to be the actual cleanup of the property, unless we have some asbestos or something that is an issue.
I would anticipate that a lot of it is going to be legal and getting titles and cleaning things up. I mean, Bill would probably confirm some of that.
Of the 47 properties that Kevin referenced that are on the property resolution team list, not necessarily all of those are ones that would take a significant amount of legal work to clear up title. Certainly some of them are. Another aspect of this would be, whether property owners would be interested in selling or not. So some of the costs would be for potential acquisition and then cleanup on top of that. So there would be, in those situations, if it would require acquisition, it would be slightly less legal costs in pursuing that because, we wouldn't have to go through extensive steps as we would if, say, the property owner was deceased. So we're working through a couple properties like that on the property resolution list right now, and certainly that takes a lot more legal time to be able to do. But I would say at least of the 47 that are on there right now, yes, there would be legal expense associated with some, but not necessarily all.
So if you engage in in the possibility of purchasing a property, how do you determine what is fair market value and how much the city's willing to spend?
I guess it depends on the property. So, we always have the tax assessed value to start with, and then it's just a matter of a negotiation with the property owner. And certainly some property owners just aren't willing to sell. So, it gets to be a little bit more difficult to try to negotiate that type of deal.
So if we're in a situation where we've got a forced sale because of unpaid back taxes, does the city come in then and pay those taxes and acquire the property? Is that one of the options?
That would be a matter of timing, and certainly any type of property that has back taxes on it, that obviously creates issues. And I would say from a legal perspective, the status of those properties so far as they relate to tax liens and tax certificates, there's a lot that's up in the air legally with those types of properties because of some of the recent legal decisions that have come down.
So are most of these current on their taxes?
It's hard to say. Some are, some aren't. So.
Well, I understand the predicament we're in. I guess the problem I have supporting this is it just seems like more and more we're moving ourselves into a central government. And we can say, well, it's our money. If we don't take it, somebody else will. But the reality is it's not even our money. It's borrowed. I mean, when you think about it, we owe $35 trillion. Who's counting in national debt? It seems like somewhere we just can't continue to do this and expect to have a country that's going to be. When I think about our interest on our national debt is $1 trillion right now. I can't even figure out how many zeros are in $1 trillion. I don't know how we pay all this. So I just think we have to end some of this reliance on federal government. I mean, sure, we've got properties out there that will make sense to get them cleaned up and get them back on the tax rolls, but in reality, how much are we really spending for them when I think about how much money we have borrowed? So anyway, I'm going to vote no.
Donna?
I think when this came up before, I probably asked the same question, but it's like, we've got regulations, ordinances in the city for people to keep their property up. So how do we prevent us from the city getting housing and into this predicament? I mean, is there things that we've got in place that could prevent this from happening? Or I mean,
There's
we
there's
can't
certainly
rely
lots
on-
of ordinances that help prevent things like this, but the simple truth is, for a lot of years, not a lot was done, and right now we're way behind. I mean, you may recall several years ago, the city was nearly sued over exactly this issue, and that's how we got to having the property resolution team in the first place. And so these grants and these things are further attempts to deal with the dilapidated situation, because like any other problem, when you get way, way, way behind, it's very, very hard to get caught up to sort of a neutral place. And what we've been struggling to do over the past 5 years or so is to try to get us close to that sort of neutral position. And then with enough enforcement, we can sort of, I don't know, hold the line might be the best way to say it. And, keep things largely in a good place. I mean, I have a house that I've been watching in town because I drive by it every once in a while. And one of these days, the wind is actually going to blow it off its foundation. I mean, it's going to happen. But right now, they're really, the state that it's in, there really isn't any way to force anybody to do anything to it without spending an enormous amount of money. And it's a heavy debate as to whether it's really worth, since there's no one living there, is it really worth spending that amount of money to try to resolve that issue? So anyway, my point is hopefully at some point in the future, the city will get to most things are in pretty good shape. And then it will be really easy to keep things, well, not really easy, but it will be manageable to keep things up at that point. But until we get there, boy, we're playing from way behind, and we're down on the first yard line, and we're behind about 70 points. So we've got to get up there.
well, I too watch a house, and I don't know what kind of condition the house is in, but the whole lot is terrible. And I was told that, homestead exemption, they don't pay property taxes, and they get called into court, they get a fine, they pay the fine, and they go about their merry way. There's no enforcement of cleaning up or fencing the property so we don't have to look at it. Is that kind of what's going on?
Well, in some cases that does happen, but
Because I don't see any cleanup going on
so
at
what
all.
what the city attorney has been doing in those scenarios is, with repeated offenses, the fine gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Is that correct?
Yes, and eventually I file a different type of action where I'm not seeking a fine, but instead a court order to require the cleanup. But, another thing that I might add to piggyback off of what the mayor was saying, is that a little bit these types of cases require a version of triage, because we also have other issues that occur throughout the city. For instance, properties that are damaged by fire, and that pose an immediate and inherent risk that move to the top of this property resolution list. And so, we have things like that are always in flux and changing. And if Lane wants to speak to any of it, it is an issue of having the sufficient staff and just bodies that can check on all of this too. And so, that would be something that there probably could be a couple more of me that could continue the work that is being done on this. But, then the question becomes, what is the cost for that too? So, and that's where this grant would come in to help, is it would provide additional funding that wouldn't come out of, the city's tax ask for, when it comes to real estate taxes and levies and that kind of thing. So.
Mayor Kelleher, if I
Yeah.
may.
Go ahead.
We can pontificate about federal spending. That's not our jurisdiction. That should be addressed to Deb Fisher and our elected officials in Washington. The grant has been made. This is just to ask for a grant. That's all it is. And my job as a representative is try to improve this city, make it a better place to live. And getting some of these programs houses cleaned up, I think satisfies that. And I don't care about the federal government in the sense that that's beyond my jurisdiction. I can't stop that train from going. The money's out there. Somebody's gonna get it. You know, and it's just, we're not gonna stop. By not taking it, we have no effect on that. It makes no difference to Washington whether we take it or not. You gotta apply for it. So, I mean, this is my argument. I don't think it's it's a big government issue, then there's a lot more big government issues out there. So that's just my thought about this. It's a grant, guys. We
Thank
may
you.
not even get it. We didn't get it last year. Now, my next question is, there's 6 of us here. If this breaks down to a 3-3 vote, I mean, how many votes do we need? We need 5?
Yeah, since it's presented as a resolution, resolution by statute requires a majority of the elected members of city council, which again would require a 5-person vote in favor.
Well, then I'd move we table this motion till the next meeting.
Motion to table. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Nisley, second by Lucas. Calling the question on tabling item number,
We closed the public hearing.
Yes.
yes, we did. Thank you for checking, but yes, we did. Okay. Calling the question on the table motion.
Yes, my interpretation of this is that this would be a situation, again, it does not require, a table vote does not require the 5-person, but
So I can vote.
maybe give me 1 minute to check the statute here so
Okay.
that we'll see if this is a situation where we vote.
Mr. Mayor, is it appropriate to ask any other questions about this process or not?
I'm sorry, we can't debate
Okay,
after a
that's
table
fine.
motion, so I
That's
apologize.
Kind of what I thought.
You're welcome to quiz Kevin to your content once the meeting's over. So, and if someone would be willing to hum the Jeopardy music, we'd appreciate it.
We may as well just adjourn.
Just checking one more. Okay, so under Nebraska Revised Statute 16312, which lays out the mayor's powers and duties, the mayor may vote on any matter that requires either a majority vote of the city council members or a majority vote of all the elected members of the city council, if it's required due to council being equally divided. So this is under a separate statute than the one that we normally go under for passages of ordinances and resolutions in orders for the payment of money. This is a statute that pertains specifically to the mayor's powers, and so under 16312, the mayor can vote to break the tie in this case.
I vote in favor. Motion is tabled. Moving on to number 8. Number 8 is pulled. Moving on to number 9. Public hearing. Action to adopt ordinance number 4178 to amend the City of North Platte Code of Ordinances, section 156.042, conditional uses in an A1 transitional agricultural district to add 156.042A33, event center or special event venue. And this is opening the public hearing on this issue. I'll have you go ahead and read it, Wayne.
Ordinance number 4178, an ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska, amending chapter 156 zoning section 156.042, conditional uses, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for the effective date and publication thereof.
Thank you. Okay, public hearing is open. If you would like to make a comment on this item, Judy, you want to just, for the sake of the public information, give us a little blurb on what we are considering here, please?
Mayor, Council, so this is one of a number of amendments to the zoning code. So I was approached with a possible project, and as I was going through the agricultural district, I noticed that this possible project was not allowed in an A1 agricultural district. So after doing a little bit of research, looked at it, and so we're proposing to add this as a conditional use for an upcoming project.
Thank you. We reserve the right to call you back. Okay, anyone would like to make a public comment on this item?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we close the public hearing.
Hold
Oh,
on.
wait a minute,
Come on up,
First-
sir. If you would just hold your motion for a minute,
I will
please.
hold my.
Okay. Okay. Sir, please tell us who you are, where you live, and make your comment.
Yeah. My name is Michael Cook. I live at 1906 West Eugene Avenue, North Platte. Mr. Mayor and City Council, the reason I'd like to talk on this is actually just a comment that I have referencing, if it's appropriate, action on item 9, 10, 12, and possibly 11. I'm not sure how it fits into this. But it's been my experience here in North Platte that several times conditional use permits are allowed in especially the A1 district, and that after a period of time, these conditional uses become defunct, in that either the city council revokes the conditional use permit or the person's or business defaults on it, and it basically sits there vacant with the products or supplies or the buildings or whatever still in place. What I'd like to see, if you're going to continue to allow changes to the transitional agricultural district, that there be some kind of penalty involved here. For example, if a business has their conditional use permit revoked, after it's revoked, they should be notified that they must return the property to the original state that it was before they started there. For example, if they build stables and those stables then are not used, they're just sitting there. Everything is basically allowed to deteriorate. In fact, it references me back to the blight and substandard study on item 8, where you have all these supposed buildings that are falling down, and there's issues with trash on the properties and things like that, and nobody seems to be able to clean them up. What I'd like to suggest is that when you do these amendments or actions adopting changes, that you impose some type of penalty if the property is not continued in that use and is basically abandoned. Again, whether the conditional use permit is pulled or the person just walks away, that some type of lien or something by the city is placed on the property. For example, the property owner is advised that they have 30 or 60 days to return the property to the status it was before they started their project, and or after that time, the city imposes some type of a fine or a levy against the property for cleanup of the property at the city's expense. For example, say $300 a month or $600 for 3 months, or however you want to place that. Then this amount of money then can be used to clean the property up afterwards and return it back to a usable state, or to the state that it was at before that individual or company did whatever they were doing on the property. This is just a thought of mine, and something that I think I've seen it in other locations, albeit not in Nebraska. I'm originally from Arizona, and several of the cities in Arizona had an ordinance imposed on people that if they allowed their property to become in disrepair, they actually were fined, and then that fine or levy was placed against the property for the intent of then using that monies to clean up the property. And I see no reason why the city of North Platte couldn't do the same when it comes to some type of action for these issues. And again, I'm not opposed to any of the items that are listed on here. It's just I want to make sure that we don't end up with another blighted area because somebody just walked away after a period of time because it wasn't feasible what they thought. You know, I could come up with the idea of say, hey, I want to put a candy factory up somewhere, and then find out that I don't know how to make candy. So I close the place down and I just walk away, and the building's allowed to go into disrepair after several years. And the city then has to figure out what to do with it. And you're looking at blighted properties again. So this is just a thought that I had on this. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Cook.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions or comments? Mr. Reeker might be safe for your motion now.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Garrick to close the public hearing. Calling the question on closing the public hearing, please. Public hearing is now closed. Council will now consider action to adopt ordinance number 4178 to amend the City of North Platte Code of Ordinances, Section 156042, conditional uses in an A1 transitional agricultural district to add 156042A33, event center or special event venue. And Lane has already read the ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance number 4178 to amend the City of North Platte Code of Ordinances, Section 156.042, conditional uses in an A1 transitional agricultural district to add 156.4042, parentheses A, parentheses 33, event center or special event venue on first reading.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Garrick. Okay. Any discussion on item number 9? Comments or questions? Mr. Garrick.
I do see they are requesting to waive the 3 readings. Is there someone here that can explain what the hurry is or what's going on there?
Mayor, council, I just put that in the review comments because I do have a project that is ready to go as soon as this is approved, if it is approved. So I do have a project waiting. If you don't want to do it, that's fine. They'll just wait. It's not like it's a huge rush.
Is it weather specific or what are their thoughts?
Concrete's a little weather specific, but
For sure.
other than that,
Okay.
no.
I would move to waive the 3 readings.
Second.
Motion by Garrick, second by Nisley to waive the 3 readings of item number 9. Just so we're clear, that requires a 75% of the elected body, so everyone here tonight will have to vote for this to waive the 3 readings. So, any discussion on motion? Ed?
Mr. Mayor, depending on the circumstances, and I don't know what they are, but if we approve this and on the first reading, I mean, we waive the 3 readings and approve it on 1 reading. I don't know if they have their plans and specifications already put together so they can just go to work right away. If they don't have, there's no way they're going to get it in before.
Let's ask Judy real quick here. She
Okay.
probably knows.
They would still have to hit the next planning commission meeting because it would have to come back through as a conditional use permit application. So it would have to go to the end of October planning commission meeting, which would get back here in the first meeting in November in order to get approval for that. So it will still be, if it is waived, it will still be quite some time before they can move forward.
Do you know, are they ready to go? Have they spent the money for the architectural and engineering drawings, or are they waiting for approval?
So we normally don't require that they get the architectural and engineering drawings done before they apply for the conditional use permit, just in
Right.
case it is denied. But yes, they are ready to move forward as soon as they get the okay, if they get the okay. So concrete was the biggest thing in the discussion with them to try and get that done before the snow flies. But I mean, they're going to be up against a gun now either way. So
Ready to move means ready to move with engineering plans or ready
is
to
correct.
move with construction?
Engineering plans and construction. They have an engineer and an architect on standby waiting to move forward if that is feasible.
That's gonna be real tough.
It's going to be tough to get there. That is true.
Other questions or comments? Ty?
So as I'm thinking this through, yeah, I mean, I take waiving readings pretty seriously with zoning alterations, as we've all discussed before. Even though I have no concerns with this, but they would be needing to go to the planning commission the fourth Tuesday to request the permit, and then that'd be back here anyway, right?
Correct, because
So-
it is a conditional use, and then at that point, you can put any types of condition on it as long as they're reasonable conditions.
Right. So, I mean, from my standpoint, I'll probably vote against this just because I feel like there's no harm in going one more meeting, and then I'd probably suggest we look at that at our next meeting. Again, I don't have any issues here. Judy, I didn't have a chance to do as much research as I wanted to on this particular item versus some of the others, but this is allowed in the B zonings today, is that right?
Yes,
Okay,
that is
as
correct.
the conditional use or as a permitted use?
Permitted.
Okay. Okay, so we have this availability so they could have requested a B zoning prior.
Yes, yes.
Potentially.
Where this is going to be located, that really doesn't make a lot of sense for them or for the city. And that's why, and I wear two hats, county
Right.
planning administrator. So in the county, it's allowed in an A1 as a conditional use in an ag district. So which butts up right up against our A1 district. So when I was looking at this, they're like, hey, can I do this? I said, sure, A1, bad on me because I didn't open our zoning code and look at it. And then I looked at the city's zoning code and I'm like, oh, you can do a carnival and a golf course in an A1, but you can't do an event venue. So I went back to them and said, hey, I messed up. You can do it in the county, can't do it in the city. So let's see if the city is okay with adding that as a conditional use in an ag district.
Well, what I like about it is you could spend a lot of time arguing about what an event venue is. I think that's
Yes.
popped up over the years, once or twice. So it seems like a good cleanup to me.
I like the idea. I'm not trying to prevent it from happening. I just,
Me neither.
Yeah.
it just seems like that, we need to do our due diligence and let anybody offer any opportunity to support it or say they don't want it.
And that's fine. It was just a request. If it doesn't happen and they need to go all three readings, it is what it is.
Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to withdraw my motion, my amendment.
Motion withdrawn. We're back to the original number 9.
Do we still have some opportunity for discussion on?
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
I like what the gentleman said about what happens if it doesn't work out and we end up with a facility and we have to go ask for money to clean it up. And I don't know that we want to go down that road. It would seem to me that what he said makes perfect sense, that we should have some type of stipulation in there that would say, hey, what are you going to do if it fails? So you're just going to walk away or what? Is that, I don't know, makes some sense.
Can I add
Judy
something?
must have something to add to this discussion.
I was just thinking as he was talking about that, we do have a section on conditional uses in our zoning code that has performance standards. So maybe as we're going through this, maybe the city attorney and I can sit down and run through those performance standards and see if there's something that maybe we can add. I mean, does that seem reasonable?
The other solution is at some point in the future, the council could consider an ordinance that would stipulate what happens if you don't comply with a conditional use permit based on some set of circumstances.
Well, and
We'd
if we
certainly
get
be
into
willing
a
to entertain
situation,
something
of course, it's all hypothetical, I guess, but if this particular venue fails and somebody else wants to buy the property for a different venue, but it isn't covered under the conditional use permit, then where do we go?
So once you're issued a conditional use permit, as long as that is a very, very similar use, you can sell it to the next person because a conditional use goes with the property. So if this owner happened to create this event venue, he wants to sell it to somebody else for a very similar event venue, that conditional use stays. It goes with the property.
But if it's not to be sold for a event venue, then we would have to come back and make some other authorizations or
They could,
accommodations.
yeah, they could potentially rezone the property. They could potentially discontinue the conditional use. This particular one, I know we're not talking about the actual application, but this particular one, I know that if it did fail, it would go back to an agricultural use.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Oh, Mr. Lucas.
Yeah, I appreciate Mr. Cook's comments too. I mean, he didn't point out a property specifically, but we all know he's in a neighborhood where this has been a problem, and very professional about that tonight, because I'd be frustrated if I was him. But as I think about this, so you go and you come and you get a conditional use permit, and then you're allowed to go do your project on the conditional use. If you don't do it and you don't perform, then that conditional use permit should be taken away. And if it's taken away, well, then you're back where you started with zoning, right? So at that point, if you should comply to the zoning that that property has, and if you don't, you should be outside of zoning jurisdiction, right?
Correct.
And we have a process to deal with somebody outside of zoning.
Yeah, and we are still, with that particular property that he's alluding to, we are still in the process of working on getting that cleaned up through zoning. It's just harder through zoning. If it were in city limits, we could go out with code compliance officers, which would be a little bit easier to enforce. But zoning regulations are really tricky when you get into the court system, and Bill can elaborate.
Well, if anything, maybe we need to look at what happens if you're out of zoning compliance, because I think that naturally in that loop, the restoring the property to its original state, to me, well, does that mean we're gonna have to have an assessment of original state then with each property? I mean, I hear what Mr. Cook's saying on that, but that seems like it'd be functionally difficult. I think the key is being able to properly enforce somebody being out of compliance on zoning if it goes through that loop. So.
Mr. Woods.
It sounds like a good idea, but I have the thought, what about the guy who opens up a business that the zoning is okay with and he fails? I mean, the same thing can happen. Are we going to do it to him too? It does sound like a good idea, but I think it would just be a mess.
See.
I think that's why I kind of suggested attaching it to the performance standards of a conditional use, but that's something that we're going to have to talk with Bill about and see what we can do.
I appreciate these discussions because it opens up different thoughts that I hadn't considered, of course.
Okay, we're back to the original version of number 9 here. And we've a motion to pass in a single reading has failed, so we won't be going down that path tonight. Does anyone have any other questions or comments on number 9? Okay, calling the question on number 9 as presented in the materials. Number 9 is passed. Okay, we're on to number 10, another public hearing. Public hearing for action to adopt ordinance number 4179 to amend the City of North Platte Code of Ordinances, section 156042, conditional uses in an A1 transitional agricultural district to add 156042A32 commercial stables located outside the city limits of the City of North Platte on a property or parcel consisting of 10.01 acres or more. So we're going to open the public hearing, but first I'm going to ask Lane to read the ordinance, please.
Ordinance number 4179, an ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska, amending chapter 156, zoning section 156.042, conditional uses, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for the effective date and publication thereof.
Thank you. Okay, public hearing is open for item number 10. Any of you that would like to comment on the possibility of a commercial stable, please come to the microphone. Doesn't look like anybody's going to do that, Mr. Reeker.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Lucas. Calling the question and closing the public hearing, please. Public hearing is closed. Council will now consider action to adopt ordinance number 4179 to amend the City of North Platte Code of Ordinances, Section 156042, conditional uses in an A1 transitional agricultural district to add 156042A32 commercial stables located outside the city limits of the City of North Platte and on a property or parcel consisting of 10.01 acres or more.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance number 4179 to amend the City of North Platte Code of Ordinances, Section 156.042, conditional uses in an A-1 transitional agricultural district to add 156.042 parentheses A parentheses 32 commercial stables located outside the city limits of the City of North Platte and on a property or parcel consisting of 10.01 acres or more on first reading.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Garrick. Discussion on item number 10. Highly, Mr. Lucas.
Can I bring Judy up for another question?
Judy, you should know,
He's
just
gonna
sit in
get-
the front row.
Yeah, it's be tough on you tonight here now.
That's okay.
I was trying to remember the whole 10.1 acres versus the 3 acre limits in subdividing in the ag transition area. So in an A1, can you subdivide down to 3? Or does that, in that zone, does it have to be 10?
That zone has to be 10.01 acres or more.
Okay.
That's a
So
small,
the-
now we do have properties in that zoning that were done apparently prior to that zone being in place that are smaller than that, but they don't meet the true definition of an ag property.
So when that all changed like 10 years ago or whenever it was down to 3 acres, was that outside of our 2 mile?
That's actually in the county.
Okay, that's a
Which,
county
yeah,
item.
which again is another one that I would like to get very similar to ours because it's easier when we have that transition between our 2 mile and the county's jurisdiction, but I haven't got there yet.
And I don't have a problem with the 10. I just was trying to get my head around this. So if I had one of those properties that was 5 acres, then I just wouldn't be able to qualify for this type of conditional use permit
Right.
unless that was changed. Okay. That's all I had. Thanks.
Other questions, comments? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 10, please.
So, as an ordinance, this would require a 5-person vote.
I vote in favor. Item number 10 passes. Moving on to number 11. Public hearing, action to adopt ordinance number 4180 to amend the City of North Platte Code of Ordinances to add solar farms under supplementary regulations by adding section 156313 Commercial Solar Conversion Systems, CSCS, regulations, solar farms. This is a public hearing opening. Lane, would you read the ordinance, please?
Ordinance number 4180, an ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska, amending chapter 156 zoning supplementary regulations, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for the effective date and publication thereof.
Thank you. Okay, the public hearing is open for item number 11. Anyone would like to make a comment, please approach the microphone. Tell us who you are, what your comment is, and we'll be happy to listen.
Okay, Mayor, council members, Gary Pearson, 502 South Dewey, President of the North Platte Area Chamber and Development Corporation. Just would make the comment in reference to this agenda item and the following one that a lot of developments we're seeing today are asking about green energy, solar development in particular, which we feel is a lot less obtrusive than like wind energy farms and that kind of thing. But it's something that isn't going to go away, and there's going to be more demand for it. I think we're already in an era that energy supply is somewhat becoming limited and challenged, and so developers are looking at every type of partnership they can bring to the table, and the public power districts are embracing that to try to meet the needs of that business or industry that might be coming in. And we're seeing this with medium to large size projects, industrial, heavy commercial, and even major housing subdivisions. So I think each one of them, if they come forward and presented, they still have to go through the proper zoning approval and approval process. So you still have the trump card on everything, but this at least allows that developer to present their idea in a fashion that would be suitable for the community to consider. So we just encourage you to help us be competitive in the world as we see it today. And this issue is going to continue to be more prevalent as we go forward.
Thank you. Anyone else like to make a comment on item number 11?
Mayor Keller, if I recall, correct me, Gary, the city of Kearney allowed a big solar project and landed a pretty substantial employer who came to the city because of the solar development. So, I mean, if you're looking at that, and also, like I said, energy does not grow on trees. And even with we have good energy plants out here, but these resources are being exhausted. And if you're going to develop in the future, you have to look at all sorts of varieties of development. And I think it fits in part of the spectrum, Just my sole comment. But
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Garrick to close the public hearing. Calling the question on closing the public hearing. Public hearing is now closed.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance number 4180 to amend the City of North Platte Code of Ordinances to add solar farms under supplementary regulations by adding section 156.313, commercial solar conversion systems, CSCS regulations, solar farms on first reading.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Garrick. Okay, we read the ordinance a minute ago. Other discussion on item number 11.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Reeker?
regarding the power, would that power be available to be sold to the city, or are we obligated, are we obligated with NPPD to only accept power from them?
If I may, with our agreement with the MPPD, we can buy up to 10% of our power needs from outside sources. Now, we're not obligated because someone put in a solar farm to buy from them. MPPD, I believe by state law, is obligated if we would choose not to. But obviously, there's a number of factors before we would purchase something. If it didn't make economic sense, we would not do such things. But we can buy up to 10% of our power from outside sources, and there's a big vetting process that would go into that before we'd ever agree to something like that. But that is a possibility.
Thank you, Lane. So if we went into, decided that it makes sense for us to purchase the power, would we as the city then have to bring power lines to the site so we can access the power, or how would all that work?
A lot of that would be dependent on the actual, when they're doing their planning, how all the power lines would get to it and things. That'd be, kind of like a new development of any kind. Who would put that in and be decided in the development process.
Okay. Well, and the siting may have big bearing on, there may already be power lines in real close proximity too.
And we've had more than one developer talk to the city about different options, but there's nothing concrete on the table. There's some different options out there, but again, there'd be a full vetting process and looking at all the different things as far as location and cost, etc.
Thank you.
Donna?
Thank you. So this would allow actual solar farms in the city limits? Is that what we're looking at here? Okay.
Mayor, council, Yes, in the city's zoning jurisdiction. So that would be within the city and the 2 mile jurisdiction. Within city limits, unless it was a fairly large property, I would see these more probably in the 2 mile. But it is a possibility of being in city limits, just depending on where that location would be.
Do we currently have any regulations on like a solar panel on your roof or one running a windmill or, I've seen those?
Yeah, so for private solar panels, you can go ahead as long as it meets building regulations for your support system on your roof. We do have several individuals in town who have roof-mounted solar panels. This isn't going to affect that at all. This is for your commercial operations, but your private ones, yes, you can go ahead and do that. You can do wind towers, but they're limited to height. But it is only to power your private one, but we do not have anything addressing commercial.
Interesting. I'm not sure about living next to a solar farm.
Mr. Lucas?
Yeah, I might have a suggestion here, Donna, that might complement what you're concerned about. I guess first of all, I'm really in favor of getting this into our ordinances. The solar technology's really improved. This wouldn't be a farm, but even like the building I work in, when we were designing it 12 or 13 years ago, we ran analysis on it, made it was economically, it looked like it was heading in the right direction. We were just worried about the hail with the technology at that point in time, so we decided not to do it. But if you would have taken hail out of the mix, it actually would have made economic sense to consider it. And so my point is that I think the technology is just getting better. And that was, 11, 12 years ago we were looking at it. So I think the technology is getting better all the time on this. Really, the only concern I have is that, we don't have anything specific today. And under what's proposed under 4180, it would allow I-2 and I-1 to be permitted by right, and A-1 would be permitted for conditional use. And I guess I just feel like maybe we should walk a little bit before we run and look at having it all three zonings be permitted by conditional use, because what I worry about is that, there might be areas where it doesn't assemble with the neighborhood well, or there might be areas we're concerned about how it fits with our power infrastructure. I think they're unique enough that they really, kind of like the cell towers, that they should really come through the process and come to the planning commission and come to the council versus having to put 100% of that burden on the staff with permitting in those. And so I guess with that, I'd like to make a motion that on 4180, we would simply strike the permitted by right section in parentheses under 156.313B, which I think I'd defer to Bill. Would basically, it would be written so that all three of those zonings, I-2, I-1, and A-1, would require a conditional use permit.
I would second that motion.
Yeah, and we can certainly come up with some language to reflect that for the next council meeting, so that everybody can see it. But that's an appropriate amendment to make, and we can certainly come up with something between Judy and I and have it ready for everyone's review so that you can see what it is, but obviously can still move forward and vote on the amendment tonight.
Well, if memory serves me right, we've got quite a bit of property on the north side of town, and that's really accretion land. We've got property in the city limits east of town that's accretion land that, in all likelihood, we're not going to do any building construction on it. And that might be a good location for some of these to be located. They're kind of out of the way of the public. And yet we would be able to, the developer might be able to use this property to gain some revenue off of it that he wouldn't normally be able to do.
Donna?
Thank you. Isn't that accretion land, isn't there also federal, federal regulations on what you can do and can't do on that land?
Generally in the floodplains there is, yes. So, it would depend on some of that, yes, whether you could build any kind of structure.
Right, yeah, so.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Woods, go ahead.
Ty is right. Solar has gotten better over the years. It's not quite as expensive, but it's still inefficient and not reliable. It's subsidized, so we pay for it, and then the cost of it is more, so we have to pay more. I don't think green energy is a good way to go. In Europe, where they bought into it early and took it to the limits, they are now have come to their senses, in my opinion, and they are going back to coal-fired plants and things that are dependable. You can have a coal-fired plant like Gerald Gentleman that puts out water vapor coming out of that stack. You know, this has got to stop. We are just going to be paying more and more for energy if these things are allowed. We need to get back to reliable energy. There's coal, natural gas, oil, hundreds of years worth. We aren't running out. So I'm against any solar power. And I certainly don't want farms, and I don't like it on the accretion lands, Ed, because it's going to ruin hunting for people to start building stuff out there. So all in all, it to me, it's just insane to keep going down this road.
Well, I don't know that that's really correct. The technology, the battery storage, they're doing stuff now with that they weren't even thinking about 10 years ago. To me, it's a matter of diversity. You don't go out there and have a forest with one tree in it, because you're going to lose the whole forest. Same way with energy. You got to have a little bit of hydro, you got to have a little gas fire. You need it all. And so I can't think you just say we're going to isolate, you can't have solar. I think that's silliness. It's got to be part of the equation.
I agree that someday solar will probably be viable. You know, when it's profitable and it doesn't need to be subsidized and it's cheap enough to buy, then I'm all for it. But not now. Nuclear, good. Coal, natural gas, hydro, they're all good energies. But I don't see spending money developing stuff that the taxpayer has to pay for and it costs more. Like I said, someday they could be viable.
Yeah, you know, the thing of it is true. You got to realize all these other sources of energy at some point are subsidized. You know, that subsidy argument just doesn't make sense. I'm just going to tell you. They're all subsidized, and don't kid yourself. It may not be, tax breaks. They have all sorts of things that give that to make it a pretty profitable business. And is that bad? No, it's good to have this energy. We are now an energy exporting area in oil and gas. 30 years ago or 40 or 50 years ago, we had to import.
We're importing now.
Well, no, we export. We're an exporting country.
No, we are not energy.
Well, I'm just gonna tell you, that's not
Okay, hold on.
Well, we get in that
No,
argument.
that's not what's being considered by the council. We're not going to solve
Report I saw, we were an
export
oil
problems.
exporting country.
So I appreciate everyone's comments. We're going to pull it back here. So we could debate this till Brandon starves to death, but it'd take quite a while considering my current weight. But anyway, okay. I agree. Everyone has their opinions about green energy and all that. And there's no question about that. But one thing that this state is going to face in the next 5 years is some variance of an energy shortage. And it's because it's not just Nebraska, it's nationwide. And it's because of all the things that are using power that weren't using power 5 years ago. Now, whether you agree or disagree with what is likely to happen, boy, Mr. Woods, I'm right there with you. Nuclear, I think, is something that we need to be strongly considering. But the simple fact of the matter is we do have to consider all the options here, or we could run into a scenario where we can't grow, we can't do anything because we can't put power to somebody's house. And being at some of the NPBD meetings, it's some interesting stuff. If you've never been to one, I would encourage you to go. because you learn some pretty interesting stuff. For example, in the summertime, what time of the day is the biggest power draw in this neck of the woods? What would you
4
guess?
o'clock.
Yep, wrong. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. It's because of the irrigation wells. Okay,
Oh.
I would have thought the exact same
Air
thing.
conditioning
I would have
is
thought
what
the
I
exact same thing. And so you learn these interesting things about power that you wouldn't normally know. Well, 4 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, solar is of no value whatsoever. Okay, but you have to balance what you can create and what you can't create, and that's really, I think, what we're considering here is what are the options going forward, because in the next 2 years, the solar technology is not going to change enough to make it profitable. There is no question that that's not going to happen. I mean, but maybe over the next 10 years it will. I mean, we have no way of knowing that. But do we sit here and do nothing, or do we do something that will hopefully give us a chance to continue to compete and make our town grow? Because if we run out of power, it's no different than running out of houses or people. We will stop right there. I guarantee it. Okay, end of mayoral speech. Sorry about that. Anyone else have any comments on item number 11?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Lucas.
one point I want to make that I think is important to follow Mr. Woods' point is that I would tell you that I'm in support of getting this available under, if we can do it under conditional use permit. But if we had a party before us that wanted local subsidy for a solar farm, I would have a lot of concerns with going that direction.
Agreed.
And so I think that's the item we could be asked. And I don't even know if you can do TIF on a solar farm or quality growth funds. I mean, that would be a debated item, but I don't see doing this as telling the world that we're going to subsidize solar power locally, in my opinion.
That's comforting.
I'm just one of us.
I don't know that, based on the companies that have talked to us, I don't think any of them would be looking at something like that, because their business plans, which have, I mean, we've had what, two, and that we've looked at, is they're based on being able to do carbon credits and things like that.
Right.
That's how they're generating their revenue, really, when it comes down to it. So,
And
Donna, go ahead.
Isn't that with the federal government? I mean, they're subsidized through the federal government, not local
That's
governments.
correct. At some level, whether it be through carbon credits
Right,
or something along
somehow,
those
yeah.
lines. Yeah. Other questions or comments? Calling the question on item number 11.
Mr. Mayor, it may just be the amendment, or the proposed.
I think the amendment is. we
Oh,
have
my
voted on it.
apologies. Okay. Angie, reset it, please.
Okay. Oh, what do we vote on?
Okay, so my mistake, everyone. I should have said calling the question on the amendment,
The
which
amendment,
is
okay.
which is to change the wording such that all items would require conditional use permit in the I's and the A's. Okay? Everybody understand what we're voting on?
I guess.
Okay, I should always look at my marks before I do this, so I apologize.
I like to head it
Okay,
off at
that
the
item
beginning.
passes. Okay. After some considerable debate, we're back to the original number 11. Do we have any other discussion on item number 11? Calling the question on item number 11 as amended. I'm going to have to.
Yes, as
okay.
an ordinance, it would require a I vote to pass.
Okay, I vote in favor. Item passes. Item number 12, opening of the public hearing. I apologize. We should have done these at the same time because they're essentially on the same subject. But this public hearing would be action on ordinance number 4181 to amend the City of North Platte Code of Ordinances, Section 156042, conditional uses in an A1 transitional agricultural district to add 156042A34, commercial solar conversion systems, solar farms, provided the project conforms to the provisions set forth in Section 156313 and Section 156236, permitted uses in an I1 light industrial district to add B23, commercial solar conversion farm, solar farms, provided the project conforms to provisions set forth in Section 156313. Lane, hope you're ready.
You had the harder part.
Okay.
Ordinance number 4181, an ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska, amending chapter 156 zoning section 156.042 conditional uses, section 156.236 permitted uses, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for the effective date and publication thereof.
Thank you. Public hearing is open. If you'd like to make a comment on this item, please approach, make your comment. Mr. Reeker, no
Mr.
one's
Mayor,
moving.
I move that
Okay.
we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Lucas, closing the public hearing. Calling the question on closing the public hearing, please. Public hearing is now closed. Council will now consider this long item I just read, also known as number 12. Judy, you must have something to say.
Just basically saying that all this is doing is putting the, amending the code to put the conditional use in the A1. Since you amended the regulations, you should probably amend this to also put it in conditional use in the I1 district, which would also put it as a conditional use in the I2. So,
I'll let you do that, Ty, because you.
Should I take a shot, and then if I mess it up, that leaves all the rest of you to do it right?
We'll clean it up for you.
Okay. I move to adopt ordinance number 4181 to amend the city of North Platte Code of Ordinances, section 156042, conditional uses in an A1 transitional agricultural district to add 156.042 A34 commercial solar conversion system solar farms, provided the project conforms to the provisions set forth in section 15.313 and section, say 156.237 conditional uses in an I1 light industrial district to add B23 commercial solar conversion systems solar farms, provided the project conforms to provisions set forth in 156.313 on first reading. Okay.
Did you intend to say number 7?
So yes, so just as a point of clarification, Councilman Lucas's motion included the correct code provision for conditional uses under the I1 zoning jurisdiction. So he got that right.
You did.
He changed the language of the proposed motion to meet with the amendment that was passed in item number 11, if that helps to clarify.
Well, in that case, second.
That might be a first. All right. Okay, motion by Lucas. Second by Garrick. What discussion do we have on item number 12?
Mr. Mayor, I would just add that the reason it doesn't, in that motion didn't adjust the second industrial zoning is because it ties back to the other one. So the way that Judy had it written, is that right? I want to make sure that's right. That you catch both industrial zonings through the one, because the one says that if you can do it in first one, you can do it the second one. Is that right?
that is exactly
Okay.
correct. In an I2 district, it specifically says a conditional use is anything that's allowed in an I1 conditional use. So that would just transfer over.
So that's why I didn't name all three of those zoning categories, but the intent is that it would catch all three, just like the last discussion we had, that there would be a conditional use permit required in all three of those zonings. Okay.
Okay, questions or comments on item number 12 as slightly amended, or slightly motioned, excuse me. Seeing none, calling the question on item number 12. I vote in favor again. Item passes. Number 13, approve the claims.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the claims.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Garrick to approve the claims. Calling the question on approving the claims, please. Claims are approved. Public agenda requests. We respect our city employees and request that any complaints or criticisms of employees not be aired in a public meeting. Concerns about employees should be brought to the attention of the city administrator or the mayor. Individuals in violation will be declared out of order. If anyone would like to make a public agenda request, please approach the microphone and do so. No one is moving. Mr. Reeker.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
Second. Motion by Reeker, second by Garrett, calling the question on adjournment. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. I know you're in the habit of being here every Tuesday, but we can skip next Tuesday so far.
I'll believe it when it happens.